everyone, it's Julian, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make sort of darker, more raw techno. As usual, you can get the project file and samples from this video in the description, and if you're a patron on my Patreon, make sure to check there because they'll be available. And yeah, let's get started. So, I want to make this tutorial because I actually just dropped a techno mix on my channel, which you can see. I'll link it in the description. And yeah, I figured to go along with that, I will put out a tutorial on how to make techno kind of in the style of what was in that mix. So I have this project file here in front of me. It's what you heard in the intro. And yeah, here we go. So the first sound we have here is this little ARP, which sounds like this. And so this thing, to be honest with you, probably sounds a little weird on its own. It's just kind of like this little arpeggio thing that's playing throughout the track. And it's kind of like working together with this to make like that ambience you hear in the background. So the way that I made this is it's just playing two notes, playing A sharp and then D sharp, so just like fifths. Yeah, it's just doing that. And then what we've got going on here is this sound, which I made with operator, which is just like a pretty simple FM kind of sound. You can see we just have four sine waves. Yeah, four sine waves here. I've got them at varying pitches with the chorus pitch there. And then I just have those going into a low pass filter, which actually, despite this envelope having a shape, and it's got no envelope on it, I'm just filtering it down. So just kind of getting rid of that like harshness in the high end, and just focusing in on that mid-range. Then after that, I've got a bit of echo. You can see I have it set like this, so we've got these not synced, and it's just kind of doing, yeah, like I said, a bit of echo. You can kind of hear that when I turn the reverb off. It's just giving it like some kind of analog echo type of sound, I guess. Like, the thing is that with this style, you really want like a lot of character and texture in your sounds. So using like echo is a really good way to do that because it gives you that kind of like analog sort of gritty feel. Then after that, I've got a bit of reverb to give it some more space and kind of like wash it out. Then I have an EQ8 just cutting out some low end, and then finally I have this auto pan doing a sort of faux sidechain effect. So I didn't want to sidechain this to the kick because as you can hear, we have a reverb kick here, which just wouldn't really sound that good, like side-chaining things to it. It would kind of get in the way of things, and it just would be really messy. So I use this auto pan to sort of create that kind of sound. So what I did is I have the phase set to 0, so it's just affecting the volume as opposed to the panning. And then I've got to set the quarter notes, and then I have it on the saw waveform, and it's inverted. So that's what's making it kind of like have the sidechain sound. I guess it's a little bit hard to hear when I just play it on its own, but if I play it with the kick, you can hear how that reverb is kind of like pumping. Again, that's just to like keep it under control a little bit. With this style of techno, I like to kind of sidechain things like that. So the next sound that we have here is this first drone, which sounds like this. This was made also using operator. It's just playing A sharp, which is the key we're in. Yeah, really simple, just playing one note the whole time. And what this is it's some white noise going into a bandpass filter. So if you don't know, if you put white noise into a bandpass filter and then use the resonance and the key tracking on the filter, you can make like a tone that you can play. Like if I play this, you can hear we can play notes with this. So what's basically happening here is the resonance is so high on the filter that it's doing what's called oscillating, aka creating a pitch, and then the frequency of the filter is what determines that pitch. And then the white noise is just sort of like what's going into the bandpass filter to sort of get it to do this, I guess. So yeah, this is really simple to do actually. The way I did it was basically you just set up a bandpass, and then if you right click, you can hit this play by key, and there you go. It'll be what's called key tracked, meaning basically whatever note you play on the keyboard, it will move the filter corresponding to that. AKA, you can play a tuned filter now, as you can hear. So that's basically what I did, and then just playing that A sharp. This is something I hear in a lot of techno tracks in this style. Actually, like these kind of weird, mysterious sort of drone sounds in the background are just really nice for this style. It's a good way to have something kind of like ear candy and have something melodic that just doesn't get in the way too much of everything else. So after that, I have one auto pan, which is just doing this sort of volume thing. You can see I've got the phase at 0, and just kind of slowly moving the volume up and down. What this is doing is it's just giving it like the whole sound some movement. It's kind of like, you know, it's not really meant to sound like anything. It's just meant to sort of give it a little bit of fluctuation and have the volume kind of moving throughout the track to bring it to life more and make it sound a little bit more organic. Then after that, I've got this auto pan doing another fake sidechain like you saw on that ARP. And then finally, I just have an EQ8 cutting out the low end, and then I cut out this range here as well, just to kind of clean it up a bit and just make it not like it was a little bit. You could kind of hear what was going on in that range a little bit too much, so yeah, I just kind of cleaned that up. So that's that one. The next layer we have here is the second drone, which sounds like this. So what this is this is also made with operator. This is actually playing C sharp, and the reason for this is because the other one is playing A sharp, and A sharp and C sharp is an A sharp minor chord. So you can hear it's kind of meant to play off of that other one, and it just comes in here like once all the main stuff, or I guess this sort of like main part, the drop you would call it. Yeah, once that comes in, this is coming in, and this is really in the background. So basically, the way that I made this was using operator, like I said. We've just got this little waveform where I took a sine wave and added some harmonics to it, and then this one was the sine wave and I just added that one harmonic to it, and then those are going into a bandpass filter. So I'm using that bandpass filter to just kind of like clean it up a little bit. You can hear without it, it's taking up a lot of space in the frequency spectrum, and I really wanted this to just be like a smaller sort of sound that isn't taking up too much space. It's just kind of coming in and out. So that was the point of the bandpass filter. Then the only other thing I have an operator here is I have this LFO on the pitch. You can see it's kind of slow, and I've only got a little bit of the amount, so it's just on there a little bit, kind of like making it warble and giving it like an organic analog synth kind of feel. Then after that, I've just got a bit of reverb for some space. You can see I got the dry wet up, and that's also giving it like some texture. You can hear. And yeah, then after that, I've got this auto pan, which is doing a very similar thing to what the auto pan was on that other sound or the other drone that I showed you, where it's just kind of like modulating the volume over time to make it sound kind of more organic. Then after that, I just have another auto pan doing a fake sidechain, and then finally, I have an EQ8 cutting out the low end. So the next thing we have here is this little brass stab, which sounds like this. So the way that I made this was by taking this sample of a brass stab, that one, and I just kind of put it into a simpler here. And basically, yeah, it's just playing this one note, just A sharp, when the drop hits or when this main part hits. This is something that's in a lot of these kind of tracks, and like I said, it's really simple. So again, I just put that sample into a simpler, and then I've got a little bit of an auto filter after that, just cutting out some of the high end, or I guess a low pass, I should say, to make it kind of dark, because usually they're a bit darker in these kind of tracks. Then after that, I've got a bit of reverb to give it some space, so it kind of rings out and it doesn't just stop there at the end. Then after that, I have this OTT. So OTT is a preset for Ableton's multiband dynamics. It's a pretty famous one. It's been used a bunch, and it just stands for over the top. What it just does is it grabs all the kind of frequencies that aren't as loud as like the main things that, or the main sort of like defining things that you hear in a sound, and just kind of pulls them up, and it gives you like this really like just as you would imagine over the top kind of like just really powerful sound. And it's really good for brass like this. So just have that on there. Here's what it sounds like without it. So you can hear it's adding a lot of power to the sound and just kind of making it like more powerful sound. Then after that, I just have an auto pan for the sidechain, and then finally just an EQ8 cutting out the low end. Then the next thing that we have here is this little synth stab thing, which sounds like this. So it's just this little thing. It happens sort of like, I guess, in between every 2 bars, if that makes any sense. Like it happens here. This would be 2 bars. So yeah, in between every 2 bars. It's just playing an A sharp since that's what the key we're in. And yeah, it's a really simple sound. I just made it with some FM. You can see we've got a few sine waves here. Basically what it is I have a bit of an envelope with some attack on the second one. So that's what's making it kind of move like that, is that attack. And then the third one, you can see there's no envelope. So it's just from that. And then after that, I just have a bit of echo. You can see I've got a 16 note delay on there. And then finally, I just have an EQ8 cutting out the low end. I don't have this one sidechained, I guess, with the whole auto pan thing. Because, like, with things like this where it's not really hitting, like, right when the kick is, like, all this other stuff is hitting at the same time as the kick. Like this, for example, or the drones. So we do want to sidechain those. But with this, since it's hitting, like, sort of before the kick, I kind of like to leave it not sidechain and just have it be breathing a little bit more. Like, it gives the mix a chance to breathe, and it doesn't. It makes it so everything isn't just like, ducking super hard underneath the kick. So that's that. Then the next thing that we have here is the kick, which sounds like this. So the way that I made this is it's a pretty standard sort of like techno reverb kick. Basically we have this instrument rack, and what I've got in here is we've got 2 chains. One is sort of like the dry chain, and then one is the wet chain. So basically what I've got on the dry chain is just this kick. You can hear this is the sample we started with, and this is what's really important for these kind of kicks. So you can see I have really no processing on the dry chain. It's just really simple. It's just about finding one of these big, kind of like powerful, sort of like clubby kicks, I guess you would say. Like, yeah, just something kind of like that. And basically, I just have that dry one, and then on the wet chain, what I have is, you can see I've got the volume down a little bit, so it's kind of like blending with the dry one. And then, yeah, we've got that same kick. And then that's going into, first, a little bit of reverb. So the reverb is what's giving it the reverb in the reverb kick. You can hear it's 100% wet, and it's set like that. And then that's going into this amp. And that's what's really, like, sort of driving it home, I feel like. Here's what it sounds like going into the amp. So basically what's happening is you can hear, it's kind of sounding like garbage, but you can hear there's that low rumble in the reverb that this is bringing out. And it's also making it mono, because I got the output set to mono. But yeah, you can hear that's kind of what we want. So then the last thing that we have here is this low pass, which is cutting out everything except for just that rumble. And then when you layer that underneath the dry kick, there we go. And then like I said, the only thing that's like really important to remember for this style is just like the type of kick. Like any of these kind of bigger, more warehousey, like clubby kind of kicks just work really well for this, because they just really like punch through the whole mix. And it's almost like everything else just kind of sits on top of it really well. So that's the kick. The next thing we have here is this little clap, which sounds like this. So basically all this is just a little clap sample, and then it's going into a bit of echo. I've got it on 16th notes. And yeah, this is kind of like something I wanted to include in here, because this is kind of like the extra ear candy sort of stuff. Very similar to those drones, or very similar to like having 2 different drones to make it even more detailed. It's just something in the drums that is kind of like an extra little element that, yeah, adds a lot of flavor to the track, I feel like. And so this is something that I feel like when I was first trying to produce techno, I wouldn't really have known to add something like this to the track, if that makes any sense. Like, I feel like these are the kind of things that maybe beginners, or even people who have been doing it for a while, that just haven't spent like a whole lot of time really analyzing a lot of techno tracks, kind of would forget to do. Like, yeah, stuff like this I think is very important. Like, again, this just serves to be sort of like ear candy. Very similar to, again, the way we have melodic ear candy up here. It's just an extra sort of thing that doesn't take away from the main stuff, but adds to it. And then it kind of comes in at the start of every 2 bars as well, which gives us like, it's kind of like a nice punctuation. You know, it's very similar to this little synth stab. It's like, that's happening sort of like in between every 2 bars, and then this clap is happening at the start of every 2 bars. It's stuff like this in the groove where you have elements kind of like coming in at the end of parts and the beginning of parts, and all this kind of stuff, where it really makes it feel full. Like, it makes it feel not just like a bunch of loops, but like a track that's based on loops, if that makes any sense. So that's the clap. The next thing that we have here are these cymbals, which sound like this. Basically what I've got here is I've got this closed hi-hat, which is playing 16 notes, and then when the drop comes, I have this 909 ride, and then this open hi-hat, which come in together, and those kind of like, yeah, they play on the upbeat, like on those 8th notes there. So the only thing I'll say about these, I'll also show you the processing that's on the group in a moment. The only thing I will say about these are, like, with the closed hi-hat, it's kind of nice to have that 16th note hi-hat in the beginning for like energy. That's really the point of having that. And then with these upbeat like ride hi-hat things, yeah, layering is very important here. This is something that's done in a lot of techno tracks. That is, again, something I think isn't as easy to pick up on when you're like first starting. But yeah, if you layer like a 909 ride with this kind of like open hi-hat sound, you get like the best of both worlds. Like, you get the high end and kind of like the ringing out sound from the ride, but then the power and the texture of the open hi-hat. So it's kind of like a nice combination there. And then on the groove here, what I have is I have a few things. So I've got a little bit of reverb, first of all, just to kind of give it a bit of space and kind of bring these hi-hats to life, because they can sound kind of dry if you don't have any reverb. So like I said, it just kind of helps bring them to life and make them feel, more like, I guess alive is the way I would say it, but more like they're in the track as opposed to just sort of some samples that are playing, if that makes any sense. Then after that, I've got a bit of saturation. I just have a little bit of drive. That's the only knob I turn there, just to kind of beef them up a little bit, and it helps to glue these together a little bit as well. And then finally, I just have an EQ8 cutting at the lawn to sort of clean it up and make room for everything else in the track. So that's pretty much it for this one. I just want to show you guys some techniques to make some sort of like darker techno stuff. I know a lot of you guys have requested this one. And yeah, so like I said at the beginning, my new techno mix that I just dropped is in the description. So make sure to go check that out. Make sure to check out the project file and samples from this video, which are also in the description. And while you're at it, don't forget to like this video as well as subscribe, and let me know what you think of this video in the comments. And yeah, so that's gonna be it for today, guys. Thank you again, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow with another tutorial.